Hey guys, what's up? Apple Fanatic, and today I have a quick video on whether or not it's a good time to update your Mac or iPad, iPhone, iPad, any really Apple device. So Apple is known for its yearly to 2 yearly cycles of updating its main devices and whatnot. So I'm just going to give you a quick insight into what I think which if you should wait or if you should go ahead and update. So the first thing we're going to touch upon is the MacBook Air. It is a great little computer. It is a great note. I call it a notebook, netbook. It's not quite a netbook, but it has the same functionality. You can edit a movie on it. Where it's not very powerful, but at the same time, at 10 inches, you really can't go wrong with it. It's a bit pricey, about $1,000, but we're not really going to get into the specs of it. You'll be paying for a Core 2 Duo, about 1.6 gigahertz with a solid state and RAM, which is fantastic, along with a really lightweight and aluminum body. So is it a good time to buy? I would say yes. Apple is known to update these every 2 years, and it hasn't even been a year yet. So if you were to go to the store tomorrow and buy one, you would get you pay $1,000, and you'd have the most current model for about a year and 4 or 5 months. And by then you can update. Now, if Apple decides to go ahead and switch that, you would be buying a out-of-date MacBook pretty much because they will be updating in September like they did last year. But I don't think you'd have to worry about that too much. Pretty sure that they are going to keep to their schedule and update it next year. The next computer we're going to be touching upon is the MacBook. It is Apple's basic notebook. It is not a netbook. It is a notebook for $1,000, around the same price as a base end MacBook Air. $1299 will get you the MacBook Air with 4 gigs of RAM, 256 solid state hard drive, and a 13.3-inch screen. And for $999 for the MacBook, you will pretty much get 2 gigabytes of RAM, 250 hard drive, 13.3-inch screen. Very nice case. It's what I'm using. I've updated to 8 gigs of RAM and updated the hard drive, but that doesn't really cost that much extra. Should you update? Absolutely not. Two reasons. It will be out of date if you update, considering that they are updating it hopefully within the next couple weeks. They have maintained a very steady 1 year cycle of updating it: 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010. I don't see why it would change in 2011, seeing how it is basically their flagship computer after the MacBook Pro. The MacBook and the MacBook Pro, but the MacBook, this one, is really what I like to think of Apple's first real computer. It was their first white computer. When a lot of people think of the first Apple computer, they think white. So go ahead and hold off on updating this for a couple more weeks. I'd say if they haven't updated within a month and a half, a month, go ahead and update it because they're probably not going to be updating to the MacBook anymore. Also, I believe the design will change. I don't think it's going to be white anymore. I believe it will probably be aluminum. It will probably be what you saw in the 2008 version of the MacBook, an aluminum, what became the MacBook Pro, because all the devices are now switching over to solid aluminum, and I think that this is going to follow. So if you really want to have one of the last things, go ahead and buy a MacBook, update it to 4 gigs, and you'll pretty much have a MacBook Pro. So the next 2010 MacBook Pro, minus the backlit keyboard. The next computer we're going to be talking about is obviously the MacBook Pro. This is Apple's top-of-the-line laptop. It is a fantastic computer, great speeds, just updated a little while ago. So actually, if you were to buy one between now and the end of December, you'd be updating without any issue, or November, because the computer is very fast. It's sporting an i5 processor at the base, and if you bump up to $1799, you can be getting a quad-corner laptop, which is unbelievably fast for a laptop. I'll personally get an update next year to hopefully their 13-inch, because that's my sweet spot right there. I like 15-inch, but for school, I'll be going to college next year, so I think a 13-inch will be the perfect size to carry around. Hopefully, we'll be seeing some of those quad-core i5s in the 13-inch for $1199. Third-generation quad 5s would be, quad 4s. i5 quads would be fantastic. So go ahead and update now. The base is 4 gigs, i5, 2.5 gigahertz, 4 gigabytes of RAM, 320 gigabyte hard drive. Very good computer, very good price for, I think, anyways. And I believe you'd be making a fantastic decision if you were to go do it now. You won't regret what you do. Now, if you have updated last year, if you just updated 2010, I would hold off until next year because it is sporting a dual core processor still. It's an i5. The architecture is about, I'd say, 50% faster than the Core 2 Duo. It's a second generation Sandy Bridge. However, it's still a Core 2 Duo. If you don't mind that, I mean, it's still a dual core processor. So it is still using two cores opposed to probably next year in your base models you can wait a year, because I mean I can, you'll be seeing four cores, which would just, it will double the speed, quadruple the speed of what you have now, and you'll really notice the speed difference. The next computer we're going to be going to is the low-end Mac Mini. Would I update now? If I could avoid it, I wouldn't go for the Mac Mini. It's a great computer, but you don't get your monitor, you don't get your mouse, you don't get your sorry guys, you don't get your keyboard. Couldn't think of the word. And by the time you go ahead and spend that, you're gonna be spending $200 on that probably anyways. I'd say go ahead and go get a MacBook or a iMac for an extra couple hundred. But would you, if you were gonna buy this, and I'm not saying don't because it's a good computer, I would wait another month or so because it's going to be updated. You're going to probably get an i5 in there, an i7. It's going to be great. It's going to be faster than the Core 2 Duo because right now this is the same specifications as the MacBook. Basically, this is the MacBook's brother for the desktop. I'd wait a couple weeks until you see an update. Like I said with the MacBook, I believe they're going to update this because this is probably it's a good seller. But if you don't see an upgrade within a month and a half, I'd go ahead and update it because I don't honestly think that they'd update it after a month and a half because they have kept such a solid, refresh cycle that it would be unlike Apple to break from their pattern of refreshing. The next one we're going to talk about is the iMac. The iMac is, I like to think, Apple's flagship desktop. It is, when you think of an Apple desktop, you think of the iMac. You don't really think of the Mac Pro, and many people don't think of the Mac Mini. But in terms of upgrading, it's a fabulous time to update. They honestly updated these things 2 weeks ago to i5s and i7 quad-core processors. So you're going to be getting some speed with these. For $11.99 with a new AMD graphics card, I'd say go ahead. These graphics cards are amazing. The cores, the Intel Core i5s and i7 chips are fantastic, fast, smooth. They have a processor 25% faster than the original. 25% faster than the original i5 models. So I forget the name, but they're 25% faster. So the i5 quad is 25% faster than the original i5 quad, if you know what I'm saying. So go ahead and update. It's a great time to update. We're in about 8 minutes. So like I said, 10 to 12 minute video. So yeah, great time to update. They also keep on a yearly refresh. I'm not personally going to get one of these because I need them from school, but if you're going to wait a year, I'm assuming you're probably going to see a changed look in the desktop. However, specs-wise, I think they're going to probably be around the same. I mean, you can't go much higher than i5 quad-core without going so expensive that the average consumer can't buy it. The next one and the final computer we're going to talk about is the Mac Pro. This is fast. That's all I can say. It's really fast, really expensive, not for the average consumer. I wouldn't personally ever buy one of these. I've played with them in the Apple Store. They are incredibly fast. You can pimp these things out to 12 cores, which I don't even know how to tell you how fast that is. It's like putting, I don't even know, I'm not going to even try, but it is really fast. Really, you can put a lot of RAM, 64 gigs, 512 gigabyte. I mean, you can pimp these things out to $12,000, and I have, like, in my imaginary goal, let's go buy it now, I have pimped them out to $12,000, and, I mean, you add OS X on top of that, this machine flies. I do think it's overpriced. You can buy an Alienware computer. Same specifications for a grand less. However, you're not going to be getting, obviously, OS X, and you won't get the build quality. But if you're going to buy one now, I'd say go for it. They update in every 2-year cycle, and they just updated a little over a year ago. So you'd have the newest thing for about 11 months, maybe a year. But yeah, so I'd say go for it if you're going to update to a Mac Pro or you're going to change Mac Pros. Go ahead and do it. If you bought one a couple years ago, I'd say update now because these are fantastically fast. So let's go ahead over to iPod. The iPod, we're going to touch upon each one really quickly. The iPod Shuffle updates every year. If you haven't updated yet, I'd say go ahead and update. I don't really think too much is going to change between the iPod Shuffle, maybe the design, but pretty much 2 to 4 gigs is what you're going to get. Maybe you'll see a bump to 8 gigs, but they're not really geared towards that. You'll probably see a change in design, and that's pretty much it. So iPod Shuffle is pretty much an okay to update anytime. And the best part about the iPod Shuffle is if you update the day before a refresh comes out, you can go ahead and go buy another one, $50, 79 at the most. The next one I want to talk about is the iPod Nano. I would hold off buying one. I'd wait for the update. My personal opinion. If you don't really care about user interface or how it feels, go ahead and buy the iPod Nano. You'll have the new thing for a couple months. It will probably be refreshed in September, like it is every year. But if you care about that stuff, I'd say wait. I think it is personally an awful iPod. I own one and I hate it. I usually use my iPhone and my iPod Touch to use it because when they come into music, mainly because I don't like it. I just don't like the feel. I feel it feels cheap. It feels small. I feel like I could honestly push on the screen and crack it. I don't really use it that much unless I go to the gym, in which case I'll clip it to my shoulder and really won't use it that much. The iPod Classic, rumor has it that Apple might be dropping this. I don't think it's true because 64 gigs is just not enough for some people. 95% of the world, 64 gigs is plenty enough for the music. I have about 40 gigs on my computer, and I honestly listen to about 5, and that's just who I am. But there are some people, DJs for example, probably have hundreds of gigs of music, and the iPod Classic is probably going to be used by them to keep all their music in line in order. So I'd say go ahead and update it. The only thing you're going to see is maybe a small bump in size. I want to say they're hitting 160 right now. The 250, 160 gigs, you might see a bump to 250. If you can see a bump to 250, that is fantastically huge. But I wouldn't really know too much about these. I've owned one. It was a 60 gig. But I'd say if you're looking for buying an iPod Classic now, this is the time to go buy them. They are going to be 250 no matter what. And you're not going to see a huge difference in this opposed to 3 or 4 months from now when they update it, or if they ever update it again. I don't think Apple will drop it per se, but they might just not update it anymore. Because there's only so much you can do with a device like this. You can't make it a touchscreen because the trackpad is the way to go. And the final iPod we're going to talk about is the iPod Touch. If you would update now, a month and a half, 2 months ago, I would have said go for it. Where it may, if you can wait a couple months, I'd say wait. You're going to be seeing a dual-core processor, gigabyte of RAM, at the very least 765 meg of RAM, probably bigger storage, higher res screen if that's possible. It's going to be snappier. It's going to be a better response. It's going to be the iPad 2 shrunken down. And I'd say if you can wait, if you have an iPod Touch 3 now, iPod Touch 2 now, wait a couple months and then you will have the iPod Touch 5 and you will not be disappointed. However, if you really don't care about that, if you just want music, you want the 8 gig model, it doesn't really affect you, go ahead and update it. You're not going to really notice a huge difference. They do underclock the A4 processor from 8 gigahertz to 800 megahertz to save battery life. And they'll probably do that to the dual core. You'll probably get I think they're running at a gigahertz each. You'll probably see 900 megahertz, 800 megahertz dual core, which is going to be super fast still. But like I said, I would wait. But if you don't really care, go ahead and update. It doesn't affect you. As for the Apple TV, they've refreshed it. I think they came out with it in 2008, 2007, so they just updated in 2010. So I'd say go ahead and update it. You're good to go. Great little device, $99. Can't really go wrong. Stream movies from your computer to anywhere in the house. It's a fantastic device and a fantastic design. Small and compact, and it's actually really nice to use. The iPad, we're going to touch upon really quickly. Go ahead and update now. They just released one in March. As people were saying, they're going to update in September. No, they're not. Apple's not going to do that. They'll cause way too much fragmentation between their iPad now, their iPad first gen, and their iPad third gen. Expect to see an iPad third gen in March, like they see every year. Probably be around what the iPad looks like now. It'll probably be like the iPad 2.5. It's what people were saying, the iPad 1.5. But, the iPad 3 will probably be what the iPad 2 looks like. You can't make it much thinner. You can give it a quad-core processor, but that's just ridiculous. They'll probably bump up the speed on the i5, maybe an i5.5, and it will be 1.2. Yeah, probably high-res display. So I'd say wait if you can. I mean, I'd say update now. Don't wait. It's a fantastic product. I own one, and you'll be pretty much waiting for a year. So go ahead and update now. If you have an iPad, original iPad, I'd say wait. If you want one, go ahead and buy it. I'm not saying you don't want to do it, but there's not a huge difference. If you have the iPad version, go ahead and update. But I'd prefer to wait. I have both devices personally, so I'm kind of prejudiced. And then finally, the iPhone. This is going to be, yeah, finally the iPhone. So pretty much the iPhone 4 just came out in white about 2 months ago or a month ago, and that tells me that don't expect to see an iPhone 5 in June, July, August. Expect to see it in September, possibly October, and if Apple's really going risky, next year sometime, because they're just under production. And with the iPhone 4 in white was released because it wants to hold over their consumers, so people aren't getting antsy, thinking, "Oh, when's the new product gonna come out?" This isn't a new product until September or quarter one fiscal year 2012. So go ahead and I'd say update now. It's a good time. You get it. You'll have the top of the line thing for 5 months, and of course, come storage. Go sell it on Craigslist, and you can get a bump. Between the iPad, it's like the iPad 2 and the iPad. You're not going to notice a ginormous difference if you are going to be playing games. You'll notice a difference if you're playing like heavy intensive games. You'll notice a slight difference in application loading, but for the average consumer, it is not going to be noticeable. And the iPhone 4 will serve plenty. It's a fantastic device. I have one in my hand right now. I love it. Love how it does. You're not going to really see too much change in the iPhone 5. Probably a high definition front facing camera. It's going to basically be an iPhone 4S. It's going to be updated, but it's going to look the same. So guys, I hope this helped. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm not going to really touch upon iOS 5 at all because that's going to be a different one. But let me know if you have any questions, if this helped, if it didn't. But I hope it helped. Sorry it ran 17 minutes, but I was trying to fit everything in that I could and help you guys fill it. So guys, for Apple Fanatic, this is me saying